Dean Winchester hated churches at night, not because he was scared of God. He just knew what happened in places like this. People came in looking for comfort. Monsters came in looking for meals. He and Sam moved along the broken sidewalk, guns low, eyes up. The town behind them was too quiet. No cars, no dogs. The streetlights buzzed like they were tired. EMF spiked again, Sam whispered, checking the small meter in his hand. The needle jumped like it was being flicked. Dean looked at the church doors. Old wood, new scratches. Someone had carved symbols into the frame. The cuts were fresh, deep, like a knife had really wanted them there. You recognize that? Dean asked. Sam leaned close, flashlight steady. Not from the usual books. Dean's jaw tightened. Great. New demon arts and crafts. They pushed the doors open. Cold air spilled out, thick with dust and old smoke. The inside smelled wrong, not just rot. It smelled like burnt metal and sour ash. Then the floor shivered. A sound came from the middle aisle, like glass cracking under pressure. Dean snapped his gun up. Sam did too. The air split open. Not a door. Not a portal like in a movie. It looked like a thin rip in space, like someone had cut the world with a blade. The edges glowed pale and jagged. Wind rushed out. Hard. Candles on the altar blew out at once. Papers flew off a broken pew. Dust spun in a tight spiral. Dean took one step back, boots scraping. He said. Sam? I see it. Sam breathed. Something fell through the rip. A man hit the floor on his side and slid across the old stone. He coughed like his lungs were full of smoke. His hair was messy blonde. His coat was long and dirty, like it had been slept in for days. He pushed up on one elbow and blinked fast, as if bright light hurt. Dean didn't wait. Hands! Dean barked. Now! The man froze. Then he lifted both hands slowly. His fingers shook a little. Easy, the man said. His voice was rough. British, like he'd smoked too much for too long. I'm having a worse night than you are. Sam kept his gun trained, but his eyes kept flicking back to the rip. Dean! That tear! A shadow moved near the back of the church. Dean heard a wet scrape, like something dragging claws on stone. A demon stepped into the aisle. Black eyes. A human face, but wrong behind it. It lunged. Dean fired once. The bullet hit the demon's shoulder and barely slowed it. The new guy moved first. He slapped his palm down on the floor and snapped a short phrase under his breath. Not Latin you learned in school. Something sharper. A pale flare jumped out, low and fast, like a wave hugging the ground. The demon slammed into it as if it hit a wall. It skidded back, snarling, and smoke curled off its skin. Dean stared for half a second. Sam stared longer. The man on the floor didn't look proud. He looked annoyed, like the demon was a mosquito. Mate, the man said, still half on the ground. If you're going to throw yourself at people, at least bring manners. The demon tried again. The pale wall held. Dean kept his gun up. Who the hell are you? The man turned his head just enough to look at Dean. His eyes were tired, too old for his face. He gave a small smile. It didn't reach his eyes. Not your enemy, he said. That's not an answer, Dean snapped. The tear in the air pulsed again. The crack widened by a hair. Outside, a scream ripped through the night. Then another. Sam's face tightened. Civilians! Dean swore. Of course. The man on the floor pushed to his knees and dug into his coat pocket. He came out with a small pack of cigarettes. He tapped one out and stuck it between his lips like it was automatic. Dean's eyes went flat. Seriously? The man patted his pockets and paused. His brows knitted. Right, he muttered. I've lost my lighter again. Dean almost laughed. It came out like a harsh breath. The demon hissed and stepped back, like it was waiting for something. Sam moved toward the doors. Dean, I'll check outside. Dean grabbed Sam's shoulder. Together. The man, who still hadn't gotten up fully, looked over at the tear. His body went still. His mouth stopped moving. For the first time, the sarcasm fell away. His whisper was so quiet Dean almost missed it. Something followed me. The church lights flickered. A cold pressure pushed through the room like a hand pressing onto the back of Dean's neck. Then the air behind them exploded with sound. A figure appeared near the altar in a burst of presence that made Dean's skin crawl. Not light, not fire, just power. Castiel. Dean didn't lower his gun, but his shoulders loosened a notch. CAs. Castiel's eyes were locked on the kneeling stranger. His face was blank, but his posture was tense, like he was holding a door shut with his mind. This man, Castiel said slowly, does not belong here. The stranger looked up at Castiel. The cigarette still hung from his mouth. He tried to act casual. Tell me about it, he said. Outside, the screaming got closer. Dean made a choice fast. He jerked his head toward the doors. We handle the people first. Then we figure out what the hell you are. The stranger lifted both hands again, like a surrender that wasn't really surrender. Fair, he said. But if you want to live through the next 10 minutes, you're going to need me. Dean didn't like that one bit, and the rip in the world kept widening behind them, slow as a bad promise. Sam's breath smoked in the cold as they hit the street. 2 people were running across the road, stumbling as if they couldn't see straight. Behind them, dark shapes moved in the alley, low and fast. Dean raised his gun. Demons? Sam's eyes tracked the movement. Maybe, but they're wrong. They're steps, like they're following a pattern. Dean didn't have time to think about patterns. He sprinted toward the civilians, grabbed the nearest woman by the arm, and yanked her behind a parked car. Get down, he shouted. The woman sobbed and hugged her own head. Sam threw a handful of salt in a quick line on the pavement. The dark shapes hit it and recoiled, hissing like steam. Castiel appeared beside them without warning, the alley filled with a low hum. The shadows backed away like dogs seeing a bigger dog. Then the stranger walked out of the church like he owned the place. He moved with a limp that tried to hide itself. His coat flapped in the wind. His eyes scanned the street fast, not like a hero, like someone checking exits. He saw the salt line. He nodded once, like he approved. You two do this a lot, he said. Dean pointed his gun at him. Name! The man's mouth twitched. You can call me John. Dean's eyes narrowed. John what? John will do, the man said. Sam stepped between them a little, not blocking Dean, just easing the angle. I'm Sam, Sam said. That's Dean. And the angel is Castiel. You're in Kansas. Now tell me what you mean by followed. Something noticed the hole I made, John said. He spoke like it was simple math, and it's the kind of thing that likes to collect what slips through. Dean snorted. That's vague. John looked at Dean's gun and then at Dean's face. You want clearer? Fine. A debt. A claim. A leash. Take your pick. Castiel's gaze sharpened. A claim. On your soul. John's eyes flicked to Castiel. You can smell that, can you? I can feel it, Castiel said. It is layered. Old. Not from this hell. That made Dean's stomach drop. There was only one thing worse than their hell. Another one. A loud crack snapped from the church. All of them turned. The rip in the air flared bright for a second, like the world blinked. Then the streetlights along the block popped, one by one. Glass rained down in tiny, glittering pieces. The air went colder. John's face tightened. That's it, he said. That's the feeling. Dean kept the civilians low and moved them toward a nearby diner with lights still on. Sam ran ahead and locked the doors. Inside, people were crying and asking questions. Dean shouted over them, "Stay away from the windows!" John followed, then paused at the doorway. He patted his coat again, annoyed. "Still no lighter," he muttered. Dean looked at him like he wanted to punch him. "You are not smoking in here." John lifted his hands. "Fine, I'll suffer." Castiel didn't step inside. He stayed near the street, head tilted, eyes distant. Dean knew that look. It was the look CAs got when something big was moving. Sam came back to the entrance. "We can't keep them here. If that rip opens wider, It won't just open," John said. "It will tear." Dean grabbed John by the coat and shoved him against the wall. Not hard enough to hurt, hard enough to make a point. "You brought this," Dean said low. "You fix it." John didn't fight back. He didn't even look offended. He looked tired. "I'm trying," he said. "But your world's rules are different. I don't know what the local management looks like." Sam frowned. "Management?" John's mouth twisted. "The ones who keep the books. The ones who write the rules. Castiel looked over his shoulder. Someone is coming. The diner lights flickered. A cold pressure pushed into the room. People screamed and ducked. Dean felt his teeth ache, like the air had weight. John closed his eyes for a second, like he was bracing for a punch. Yeah, he said softly. That. The Men of Letters bunker felt safe in a way the surface never did. Thick walls, metal doors, warded rooms. A place built to hold secrets and survive the end of the world. Dean liked it because it made sense. You could lock it. You could protect it. You could control who came in. This new guy ruined that feeling just by sitting at their table. John, if that was even true, sat in a chair like he had been dragged through a storm and dropped here. His coat was still dirty. His hands were stained with chalk and ash. His eyes moved around the bunker like he was reading it. Sam stood across from him with a notebook. He was calm, but his mind was racing. Dean could see it in his face. Castiel stood a little back, silent, watching John the way a guard dog watched a stranger near the house. Dean dropped a small pile of items on the table. We're going to do this simple. He put down a flask of holy water, a silver blade, a small vial of salt, a devil's trap drawn on paper. John raised one brow. Is this your welcome kit? Dean ignored the joke, touched the paper. John's eyes narrowed. You think I'm a demon? I think you're something, Dean said, and I don't like surprises. Sam spoke gently. Just do it. It'll help. John sighed like the world had asked him for homework. He reached out and placed 2 fingers on the devil's trap. Nothing. No smoke. No burn. No scream. Dean's shoulders eased a fraction. Sam slid the holy water closer. Drink. John stared at it. That's disgusting. Drink, Dean said. John took the flask, sniffed it, and made a face. Then he took a small sip. He didn't melt. He just coughed and wiped his mouth. Tastes like regret. Dean leaned in. Okay, you're not a demon. That's the good news. Bad news is, you can still be a problem. John smiled without humor. That's fair. Sam flipped to a clean page. Tell us what happened. Start with the rip. How did you make it? John rubbed his eyes with thumb and finger, like he was trying to press away a headache. I didn't make it on purpose, he said. I was in a situation. Dean crossed his arms. A situation. A job, John said. A nasty one. I used a door that should have led me somewhere else. It didn't. Sam waited. Why? John's gaze flicked to Castiel, then back to Sam. Because someone wanted me gone, John said. Or wanted me here. Dean's eyes narrowed. Who? John let out a short breath. If I knew the name, I'd be less worried. Sam wrote fast. Okay, you said a collector followed you. What is it? John sat back. He looked at the bunker lights like they might flicker again. It's like an auditor, he said. A thing that shows up when deals get messy. When contracts cross lines, they shouldn't cross. Dean's voice went hard. Contracts for what? John's mouth tightened. He didn't answer right away. Castiel answered for him. Voice flat. His soul is claimed. John's eyes flashed. He didn't deny it. That was worse than a denial. Dean slammed his hand on the table. Of course it is. Sam shot Dean a warning look. Dean! No, Dean snapped. No, Sam. We do not bring random cursed guys into our home. We do not let hell's paperwork into the bunker. John leaned forward, eyes sharp now. You think this is my hobby? You think I woke up and thought, let's ruin some American lad's week? Dean leaned right back. We've met guys like you before. John's gaze didn't blink. Then you should know I'm not the biggest danger in this room. Castiel's head tilted slightly, like he agreed in a way he didn't want to. Sam held up a hand. Enough. Both of you. Sam looked at John. Give us something real. A clear story. 3 things. Who you are, what you can do, and what is coming. John's eyes softened for a second, then hardened again, like he didn't want to feel anything near these people. He nodded once. Fine. 3 things. He held up one finger. I deal with monsters. Demons. Ghosts. Things that eat people from the inside. I'm good at it. A second finger. I can use magic. Wards. Binds. Exorcisms. The nasty kind too, if I have to. A third finger. Something is coming to collect me. And it won't stop with me. It will use you. It will use anyone close. Dean's stomach turned. He hated how calm John sounded. like it was already decided. Sam asked, "Why would it use us?" John's mouth twitched again. "Because you'll try to help, and that's a weakness in this line of work." Dean's eyes flashed. "Helping isn't a weakness." John looked right at him. "It is when the enemy reads your heart like a map." Silence fell. In that quiet, Sam heard it first. A faint tick, like a clock, somewhere in the walls. But the bunker didn't have a ticking clock like that. Sam looked around. Dean did too. Castiel's face tightened. The tick turned into a soft page flip sound, like a book, turning pages by itself. Sam's throat went dry. "Dean, are any books?" A cold pressure rolled through the bunker. Not like a ghost, not like a demon, something bigger, cleaner, like the world itself had noticed them. Castiel's voice dropped. "It is aware." John's jaw clenched. He stared at the ceiling, then the floor, like he was trying to find where the eyes were. "Right," he whispered. "Management." Dean stepped closer to John, anger mixing with fear. "You bring that to my home again, I swear." John cut him off, calm and sharp. "You think I want it near me? It's not here because you invited it. It's here because I'm not supposed to exist in your story." Sam froze at the word story. It made his skin crawl. He had lived too many weird lives to ignore that. Dean pointed at John's coat. "Then what do we do?" John exhaled through his nose. It wasn't a laugh. It was a sound that said, "Here we go again. We get ahead," he said. "We find the weak point. We lock the rip. We salt the edges. We do not let it turn into a door." Castiel looked at him. "And if it does?" John's eyes went distant. "Then something steps through that makes your demons look like street thugs." Dean's fingers tightened around his gun. Sam swallowed. "We need more information." John nodded. "Yeah, that's my line too." Dean didn't like trusting him. Every part of Dean's gut screamed that John was a trap with a smile. But Dean also knew something else. When CAs said, "aware," he meant it. And when a thing like that noticed you, you didn't get to pretend it wasn't real. Dean pointed at John. "You stay in the bunker, under watch." John lifted both hands again, like before. "Sure." Then he added, almost too casual, "Also, I'm going to need supplies." Dean blinked. "Supplies?" John nodded. "Chalk, iron filings, a proper blade, maybe a hair from a saint, if you've got one lying around." Dean stared. John shrugged. "And a lighter." Dean's mouth twitched against his will. "You are unbelievable." John's smile came out for real this time, small and quick. "I get that a lot." Sam watched the two of them, feeling the tension like a wire pulled tight. Somewhere deep in the bunker, a book flipped a page on its own again, and Sam had the terrible feeling that something out there had just started planning. The first rip opened again 2 days later. It was not in a church this time. It was in the middle of a busy street, outside a hospital with bright lights and people who had no idea how thin the world could get. Sam saw it on a security feed first. A thin crack in the air above the sidewalk. A shimmer, like heat over a road in summer. People walked under it without looking up. Then a man pushing a stroller stopped dead, staring. His face went blank, like his mind had been switched off. Sam's stomach dropped. "Dean, now!" Dean was already moving, grabbing weapons and a duffel. Castiel appeared beside them, eyes hard. John Constantine followed at the back, coat on, hands in pockets, cigarette unlit. Dean noticed that. "No smoking?" John glanced at him. "No lighter." Dean didn't smile. "Good." They arrived fast. Sirens wailed in the distance. Cars honked. People shouted. Normal life. Crashing into the wrong kind of night. The crack in the air widened. A slow stretch, like someone pulling a seam apart. John's eyes narrowed. "That's not a random tear," he said. "That's a deliberate cut." Sam looked around at the crowd. "We need to clear them." Dean stepped onto the sidewalk and shouted, "Everybody back! Gas leak! Move!" People hesitated. Some listened. Some didn't. Then the crack pulsed. A wave of cold rolled out. Every person within 20 feet shivered at the same time. A few dropped their phones like their fingers stopped working. Castiel lifted his hand slightly, like he was bracing for impact. "It's close." Sam saw it then. A pattern. Dark figures were standing across the street, spaced like points in a circle. They looked like normal people at first. Hoodies, jackets. Then one turned its head, and Sam caught the eyes. Black. Demons. But they weren't rushing. They were waiting, holding positions, like pieces on a board. Dean spat out a curse. "They're making a trap." John's voice turned flat. "No, they're making a ritual." The crack split wider. Something stepped through. It looked like a man in a dark coat at first. Tall, clean, still, but its shadow moved wrong. The shadow had extra joints, extra angles, like it didn't match the body. Its face was human enough to fool people. That was the point. But the eyes were too calm, too empty. It looked around once, slow and careful, like it was checking a list. Then it looked at John. The air around it thickened, like the street had suddenly become heavy. John's shoulders went tight, even if his face tried to stay bored. "Oh," John said softly. "That's the auditor." The thing spoke without raising its voice, yet the sound cut through the street noise like a knife. "John Constantine," it said. People nearby turned, eyes unfocused. The name hit them like a command. Dean stepped in front of John. "Back off." The auditor's gaze didn't even land on Dean. Dean was not important to it. "Unregistered asset," it said. "Cross-world violation. Contract remains active." Sam's heart hammered. He hated the words. They sounded like law. Castiel stepped forward, voice sharp. "You have no authority here." The auditor finally looked at Castiel. For the first time, the streetlights flickered. "Authority is not local," it said. Castiel's jaw clenched. Then he moved. He pushed his grace outward, a wave of angel power meant to force a demon to its knees. The air shook. Windows rattled. The auditor didn't kneel. Its coat fluttered like it felt wind, but it did not move back. It lifted one hand. Just one. A thin black line drew itself in the air between the auditor and Castiel, like ink being pulled from nothing. Castiel stopped short, eyes narrowing. The line wasn't a wall. It was a rule. Dean saw it too, even if he didn't understand it. "CAs." Castiel's voice was tight. "It is not resisting power. It is changing what power means." John's face went paler. "Told you. Paperwork." Dean fired at the auditor. The bullet hit dead center. It stopped in midair an inch from the auditor's chest, as if it had struck invisible glass. The auditor didn't flinch. Then the bullet fell to the ground and rolled. Dean's anger spiked into real fear. Sam grabbed a small bag of salt and threw a wide arc. The demons across the street didn't cross it. They held their positions. They smiled like they didn't need to. John stepped to the side, fast, scanning the ground. He pulled chalk from his coat. Dean snapped. "You had chalk this whole time?" John didn't look up. "Priorities." He dropped to one knee and drew a circle on the sidewalk, quick and sure, even as people screamed and ran. His hand moved like he'd done this 1,000 times in worse places. Sam dragged a stunned nurse away from the edge of the crack. "Dean, get them inside the hospital." Dean grabbed two bystanders and shoved them toward their doors. "Move, now!" The auditor spoke again, calm as a banker. "Collection begins." The demons moved at once. Not toward Dean, not toward Sam, toward the crowd. They pushed people back toward the crack, herding them like cattle. Dean ran, swinging the butt of his gun into a demon's face. It stumbled, but it didn't break formation. Sam pulled out the demon-killing knife and slashed another demon's arm. Black smoke hissed. It howled, but it still didn't rush him. It just went back to its spot. "They're not here to fight us," Sam realized, breath hard. "They're here to feed the ritual." Castiel reached out again, trying a different angle. He targeted the crack itself, pressing Grace against it like he could seal it shut. The crack shuddered. For a second, it narrowed. Then the auditor's shadow stretched and touched the crack. The crack widened again, like it obeyed the shadow more than the angel. John's chalk circle was done. He slapped his palm down inside it and spoke a rapid string of words. The air in the circle hardened, like a pressure dome. Dean shouted, "What does that do?" John's eyes stayed on the auditor. "It gives me a place where your world's rules still work." Sam saw John's other hand shaking as he reached into his coat. He pulled out a small folded paper, worn and stained. It looked like a contract. Sam's throat tightened. Is that? Not mine, John said fast. A sample. A copy. Don't ask. He placed the paper inside the circle and pressed 2 fingers on it. Then he spoke a name. Sam didn't catch the full name. It sounded like broken glass and old Latin mixed together. The air snapped. The demons on the circle points flinched at once, like they had been tugged by a string. The auditor's head turned. Slow. Its calm finally cracked a little. John's voice rose, harsh and clear. You want claims? Fine. Let's talk claims. Dean watched, shocked, as John's circle flared pale white, the chalk lines glowing. John's eyes were fierce now. Not tired, not bored, alive. He wasn't throwing punches. He was grabbing the rules by the throat. The auditor stepped forward. The street around its feet darkened, like ink spilled under it. Improper challenge, it said. John barked a laugh with no humor. Says who? He snapped his fingers. Nothing happened. John's face tightened. He snapped again, harder. Still nothing. Dean stared. Your trick not working? John's jaw clenched. Lighter, he muttered, angry at himself. I need a flame to anchor the next part. Dean froze for half a second, then cursed and shoved a lighter into John's hand. Dean didn't carry one for fun. He carried it for emergencies, for burning bones, for setting traps. John's eyes flicked up, surprised. Dean's face was hard. Fix it. John flicked the lighter. A small flame appeared. It was tiny, normal, almost silly in the middle of a magic war. But John's circle responded like it had been waiting for that spark. The flame turned pale blue for a second, then went back to normal. John leaned close to the paper contract and let the flame kiss the edge. The paper didn't burn. It curled, black at the corner, like it was tasting fire. John spoke again, fast, sharp. The crack in the air shuddered. The demons staggered like the ground under them tilted. Castiel felt it too. He blinked, as if the world had shifted sideways. He is bending the connection. Sam's eyes widened. He watched the demons lose their neat spacing. Their ritual was slipping. The auditor lifted its hand. That black ink line appeared again, but larger. It moved toward John's circle like a blade sliding through air. John didn't flinch. He drew a symbol in the air with his free hand, using the flame as a pen. The symbol hung there, burning for a second. The ink line hit the symbol. They met with a sound like metal scraping. The symbol shattered. John's circle flickered. John hissed through his teeth. Dean fired again, not at the auditor, but at the demons still shoving civilians. He shot to distract, to force them to react. Sam moved with the demon knife, cutting down the ones that broke formation. Each kill made the ritual weaker. Castiel stepped to the crack and poured power into it again, not trying to force it closed, but trying to hold it steady long enough for John's magic to latch on. The auditor's voice stayed calm. Resistance logged. John's breath came fast now. He looked at Dean and Sam without turning his head fully. If it takes one of them through that tear, John said, it will have leverage. It will keep doing it. Dean's chest burned. Then we stop it. John's eyes flashed. You can't stop it with bullets. Dean snapped. Then tell me what does. John swallowed, then spoke like it hurt. A deal. Sam's face tightened. No. John didn't look at Sam. I'm not asking permission. I'm stating facts. The auditor stepped closer. Every step made the street colder. John's circle shook. The auditor's shadow touched the chalk. The chalk began to gray, like the power was draining out. John's hands trembled. He wasn't weak. He was fighting a thing that was not meant to be fought like this. He made a choice in his eyes, the kind of choice that always had blood on it. He stood up from the circle slowly and walked forward. Dean grabbed his coat. What are you doing? John pulled free. Buying time. Sam's voice rose. John, don't. John stopped a few feet from the auditor. He lifted his chin. All right, John said. Let's talk. The auditor tilted its head. Asset offers compliance. John forced a small grin. Don't get excited. I'm offering a trade. A clean route to your claim. Dean's stomach dropped. No, absolutely not. John didn't turn. Dean, if you want to play hero, do it after we stop civilians from becoming payment. The auditor's voice was almost pleased. Propose terms. John's eyes were hard now. He spoke carefully, as if each word could cut him. You want me, he said, not them. So here's the deal. You leave this place. You close the cut. You stop using these people as fuel. The auditor's gaze flicked to the crack. John continued, in return, I give you a path, a location, a door that doesn't tear your process apart, a way to collect without drawing. Attention. Castiel's eyes sharpened at that word. Attention. Sam's mind spun. John was offering something dangerous, something John didn't want to give. Dean stepped forward, furious. You are not making deals with, whatever that is, in front of us. John finally glanced at Dean. His look was brutal and honest. You already do, John said. You just call yours sacrifice and pretend it's cleaner. Dean flinched like he'd been hit. Sam opened his mouth, but no words came. The auditor went still for a long second. Then it spoke. Conditional acceptance, terms recorded. The demons froze. The pressure in the air eased by a hair. The auditor lifted its hand toward the crack. The crack began to narrow, slow and steady, like someone pulling a zipper closed. People stumbled away from it, crying and coughing, suddenly able to move again. Dean grabbed a teenager by the hoodie and shoved him toward the hospital doors. Go! Sam helped an older man to his feet. Inside, now! Castiel stayed on the crack, eyes locked, holding the edges stable while it sealed. John stood facing the auditor, body rigid. Dean saw it now. Under all that calm, John was terrified. Not of pain, of what he had just promised. The crack sealed with a faint snap. The streetlight steadied. For a moment, everything looked normal again, like it had all been a shared bad dream. Then the auditor leaned closer to John. Its voice dropped, quiet enough that only John and Castiel seemed to hear it. Breach symbol will be left as receipt. John's eyes narrowed. Don't you dare. The auditor's shadow stretched and touched the ground. A symbol burned into the pavement in a thin, dark line. Not fire, not heat. More like the street itself remembered being cut. Sam stared at it. The shape made his stomach twist. It wasn't from any demon trap book he knew. Dean stepped up beside John, anger shaking in his voice. What did you just do? John didn't answer right away. He stared at the symbol like it was a grave marker. Then he spoke, voice low and flat. I made it look away, he said. For now. Dean's eyes went colder. At what cost? John's mouth tightened. He finally looked at Dean. His eyes had no joke left in them. You don't want to know, he said. Castiel looked at the symbol and went very still. That mark, Castiel said, voice tight, is not merely a warning. Sam swallowed. Then what is it? Castiel's gaze lifted to the sky, like he could see something above the clouds. It is a claim, Castiel said. On this world. John's throat bobbed. He looked away, like he couldn't stand to see their faces. Dean stared at John like he was trying not to explode. Sam stared at the burned symbol like it was a countdown. And somewhere in the back of John's mind, a cold, clean presence felt satisfied. Not because it had won, because it had begun. The bunker felt smaller after the hospital street. It was not about the walls. The walls were thick. The doors were heavy. The warding still hummed in quiet lines that Sam could feel in his bones now. It was about the symbol. Sam could still see it burned into the pavement in his mind. Thin, dark, clean, like it was drawn by something that did not need to hurry. He sat at the library table with a laptop open and 3 old books stacked beside it. His fingers moved fast, but his thoughts moved faster. Nothing matched. Not the demon traps. Not the Enochian marks. Not the witch runes. Not the sigils for angels, reapers, or gods they had met. It was like the symbol had been made with a different alphabet. Dean paced behind him, boots heavy on the bunker floor. He was trying to stay busy, so he did not explode. John sat on the other side of the table, elbows on the wood, hands clasped. He looked like he had not slept in a week. His cigarette sat unlit between 2 fingers, like a habit he did not know how to stop. Castiel stood near the doorway. He was still, too still. His eyes were fixed on nothing, like he was listening to a sound nobody else could hear. Sam broke the silence first. Okay, Sam said. Start from the deal. What did you offer it? John's eyes flicked to Sam's notebook, then to Dean's face. Dean stopped pacing. No more half answers. John's mouth twitched. He looked like he wanted to joke, but he did not. I offered it a cleaner road, John said. A way to collect without tearing holes all over your nice little world. Dean's voice went sharp. And how do you even have that? John's gaze dropped for a second. Because I've seen the roads. I've walked them. Sam leaned forward. John, what did it take from you? John's fingers tightened around the cigarette. Not from me. Not yet. Dean slammed his palm onto the table. The books jumped. What did you put on the line? Dean demanded. John finally looked up. His eyes were flat. I gave it a name, he said. Sam felt his stomach turn cold. A name of what? John did not answer right away. His jaw worked once. A door, he said. A place. Somewhere it can reach across without making noise. Dean's face went hard. You gave it away to come back. John's voice did not rise. It was coming back anyway. Now it comes back through something I can predict. Dean stared at him like he could not decide whether to punch him or drag him out of the bunker. Sam forced himself to breathe. The market left. CA said it's a claim on the world. Castiel's voice came from the doorway, calm but tight. It is a receipt. It means it believes it has jurisdiction. Dean turned toward Castiel. In English? Castiel's eyes stayed on John. It will behave like it owns a part of this reality now. Sam's throat felt dry. That's bad. Dean let out a harsh laugh that had no humor in it. That's real bad. John leaned back and rubbed his face. If it's any comfort, it's not the first time something tried to stamp its name on a world. Dean snapped. That is not comforting. Sam looked down at his notes. He tried to keep his voice steady. You said it wasn't local. It didn't talk like demons. It talked like rules. John nodded once. That's because it isn't just muscle. It's law. Dean's eyes narrowed. And you're telling me you made a deal with law? John shrugged, but it looked heavy. I make deals with worse. Dean leaned over the table. Do you even hear yourself? John's gaze met his. Yes. For a second, Sam saw something raw behind John's eyes. A flash of fear. Not fear of dying, fear of failing again. Then John covered it with a small, bitter smile. And before you ask, John added, no, I can't just undo it with a big hero speech. Dean's hands clenched. We don't do deals like that. John tilted his head. You do. You just call them sacrifices and trades and pretend the universe didn't hear. Dean's face twitched. Sam felt that hit land. Dean had traded before. Dean had died before. Dean had thrown himself into hell for Sam. He did not like hearing it called a deal. Sam stepped in fast, voice softer. Dean, please. Dean looked away, jaw tight. Sam turned to John. We need options. We need information. We need to know what this thing is and how we stop it from using that claim. John stared at the unlit cigarette like it could answer him. There's a weakness, John said finally. There's always a weakness. Not in power, in structure. Sam's eyes sharpened. Structure like contracts? John nodded. Exactly. Dean's eyes narrowed. So you can lawyer it. John's mouth twitched. More or less. Castiel stepped forward one pace. This is not only about the auditor. John looked at him. I know. Castiel's voice lowered. Something else watched the event. Something higher. The bunker air felt colder, just from him saying it. Sam swallowed. The page flipping. Dean frowned. The what? Sam glanced at Dean. Back when John first came here, we heard that weird sound. Like a book, turning pages by itself. Dean looked around, irritated. That could be a draft. It wasn't a draft, Sam said. He did not want to explain why he was sure. He just was. John's gaze turned distant. That sound means someone is paying attention. Dean pointed at him. And you know who? John's lips pressed together. I know the type. Sam's mind ran. Okay, we handle this like we always do. Research, patterns, lore. We find the type, and we find how to block it. Dean snorted. Block the thing that writes the rules? John's eyes flicked to Dean. You'd be surprised what rules hate. Dean's brow furrowed despite himself. What? John leaned forward, voice low. Uncertainty. Loopholes. A choice it can't predict. Dean stared. That's your plan? Be unpredictable? John gave a tiny shrug. It's kept me alive. Sam wrote that down, even if it felt too thin. Sometimes the best leads started thin. The bunker phone rang. It was a sharp sound in a quiet place. Sam jumped a little. Dean answered fast. What? He listened. His face changed. Anger, then focus. He hung up and looked at Sam. Hunters in Iowa. 2 bodies, both drained. Symbols carved into the floor. Sam's heart sank. Like the church. Dean nodded. Like the church. John's eyes narrowed. It's copying the method. Castiel's head tilted. Listening again. It is testing. Sam stood up. Then we go. Dean grabbed his keys. We go. John pushed to his feet too, like he never even considered staying behind. Dean pointed at him. You don't leave my sight. John lifted his hands in mock surrender. Wouldn't dream of it. Then he patted his coat and sighed. Still no lighter. Dean glared. Focus. John's mouth quirked. I am. This is me, focused. Crowley watched the world through a mirror that was not a mirror. It was a shallow bowl of black water, set on a table in a room full of old velvet and sharper things. The surface rippled with images when he wished it. He saw the hospital street. He saw the crack. He saw the auditor. And he saw John Constantine standing there like he had a death wish and a plan at the same time. Crowley's smile was slow. Oh, he murmured. It is you. His demon inside him purred at the idea. His human habits, what little was left of them, cringed in memory. John Constantine was trouble in any world. Crowley had met mages before. Witches. Necromancers. Men who thought they were kings because they could make a flame dance. Constantine was different. Constantine did not want to be king. He just wanted to win. Winning mattered more than being liked. Crowley tapped the edge of the bowl. The image shifted to the burned symbol on the pavement. His smile faded. That, Crowley said, voice turning dry, is not one of mine. He did not like that. Crowley liked being the biggest schemer in the room. He liked knowing which doors were locked and which keys fit. This new mark felt like someone else had put a flag in the ground. Crowley stood and adjusted his suit. Right, he said. Time to pay a visit. He snapped his fingers and vanished. Dean did not like Iowa. It was flat. It was open. It had too much sky. Monsters could see you coming from a mile away. They pulled up to a farmhouse with police lights flashing nearby. Sam had already flashed a fake badge and gotten them close. Inside the barn, the smell hit first. Blood, rot, salt, and smoke. 2 bodies lay on the dirt floor. Their mouths were open like they had tried to scream. Their skin looked gray, like the life had been sucked out. Symbols were carved around them in a rough circle. Sam crouched and studied the cuts. Dean kept watch, hand on his gun. John walked to the edge of the circle like a man reading a map. His face was grim now. No jokes. This is not your standard demon job, Sam said. Dean grunted. Yeah, no kidding. John pointed at one mark. That's a hinge. Sam looked. A hinge? John nodded. It tells the tear where to bend. Dean looked at him. You talk like this is carpentry. John glanced at him. It is. Reality is wood, if you have the right tools. Dean did not like that sentence at all. Castiel touched one of the carved lines. His fingers hovered, like the air itself stung. This is an imitation, but it carries an echo. Sam frowned. An echo of the auditor? Castiel's eyes lifted. Yes, and something else. Dean's shoulders tightened. The Watcher. Castiel did not deny it. That was enough. John exhaled slowly. They're using the method to make small tears. Testing what sticks. Sam stood, wiping his hands. So it's spreading. John's eyes were sharp. Or it's drawing lines on a map. Dean looked around the barn. Why here? Why these people? Sam checked the victims' wallets. They're not hunters. They're not connected. John's jaw clenched. Collateral, he said. Dean's rage flared. No, screw that. John looked at him. Welcome to my world. Dean stepped closer, voice low and dangerous. Don't talk like this is normal. John's eyes did not blink. It shouldn't be normal. That's why you fight. Dean held his stare, then looked away, jaw tight. Sam saw it. Dean was trying not to admit something. John was right, and Dean hated it. The air changed. A familiar, smug voice filled the barn. "Oh, look at you lot," Crowley said, appearing near the doorway like he'd been invited. "Playing detective." Dean spun, gun up. "Crowley." Sam's face tightened. "How did you?" Crowley waved a hand. "Please, I have spies. You have a bunker with a neon sign that says, 'Secrets inside for anyone who knows what to smell.'" Then Crowley's eyes slid to John. He smiled wider. "John Constantine," Crowley said, savoring the name. Sam froze. Dean glanced at John fast. "Constantine?" John's face did not change, but Sam saw his shoulders go a fraction tighter. Crowley chuckled. "Oh, don't look so shocked. The bloke has a reputation." Dean took one step toward John. "You told us your name was John." John's voice was flat. "It is." Dean's eyes narrowed. "You didn't tell us the rest." John looked back at him, tired. Would it have helped? Dean did not answer. His silence was an answer. Sam's mind raced. That name meant something to Crowley, but Sam had never heard it. And in their world, names mattered. Records mattered. He stepped toward Crowley, trying to keep control. "You know him?" "From where?" Crowley's smile turned sly. "From a different kind of hell. From a different kind of mess. From stories that aren't yours." Castiel's gaze sharpened. "You should not speak of that." Crowley lifted his hands. "Touchy, Angel. Fine. I'll keep it simple." He looked back at John, eyes bright with greed. "You're out of place, Constantine, which means you're valuable." Dean barked. "He's not yours." Crowley rolled his eyes. "Relax. I'm not here to steal your pet mage." John's lip curled. "Pet mage." Crowley ignored him. "I'm here to offer help, resources, information, protection." Sam frowned. "Why?" Crowley's grin widened. "Because I like being alive. And that auditor thing? That's not part of my normal day." Dean aimed his gun at Crowley's head. "What do you want?" Crowley sighed like Dean was boring. "Favors." John let out a quiet laugh, sharp and bitter. Dean's gaze snapped to John. "Is that your whole thing? Favors?" John did not answer. He did not need to. And Crowley leaned closer to John, voice smooth. "You and I could do beautiful business, mate. You give me what you know. I help you cut your chains. Everybody wins." Sam watched John carefully. He expected John to smirk and dodge. He expected a lie. John's face was hard. "I don't do business with kings of hell." Crowley's smile stayed. "Funny. You do business with everyone else." Dean's gun didn't move. "Get out." Crowley sighed again. Always the rude one. He looked at Sam, voice softer, like he was trying to sound reasonable. "Listen, Moose. Your friend here is a walking magnet for cosmic trouble. If you want to keep your world from getting stamped and filed away, you'll need more than books and bravado." Sam held his ground. "And you're the answer?" Crowley's smile flashed. "I'm an option." Castiel stepped forward, eyes cold. "You will not manipulate them." Crowley looked at Castiel and smiled like a cat. "Oh, I will try." Then his gaze slid back to John. "Think about it. Constantine, I'll be around." He snapped his fingers, and he was gone. The barn felt colder after he left. Dean turned on John like a storm. "You lied," Dean said. John's eyes were tired. "I didn't give you my full name." Dean took a step closer. "That's a lie." John's voice stayed calm. "You pointed a gun at me. You tested me with holy water. You treated me like a bomb. Why would I hand you the label on the box?" Dean's jaw flexed. Sam stepped in quickly. "Dean, we need him right now." Dean's eyes flashed. "I know." That was the worst part. He did know. Sam looked at John. "Constantine. That name isn't in any database I checked. Not in any hunter forums. Not even in the Men of Letters files." John's gaze drifted to the carved circle on the floor. "Because it's not your world." Sam's heart thudded. Hearing it said out loud made it real. Dean's voice was low. "So what are you?" John's eyes lifted to Dean's. "A man who shouldn't be here." Dean stared. Sam saw his fear under the anger. If the rules were breaking, Dean had less control than ever. Castiel's voice cut through them, urgent. "We should leave. Something is approaching." Sam felt it too. A pressure. Not like a demon. Like the air was listening. Dean grabbed his keys. Back to the bunker. John looked down at the carved symbols one last time. He whispered, too quiet for Sam to fully catch. It sounded like a promise. Or an apology. Then he turned and followed. Back in the bunker, the books were not where Sam left them. It was small at first. A book on demon lore shifted half an inch. A page in another book stood open, even though Sam knew he had closed it. Sam tried to ignore it. He told himself it was nerves. Then a heavy book on the far shelf opened by itself. A page turned. Slow, careful. Castiel's head snapped up. Dean reached for his gun even though it was pointless. John went very still. Sam's throat tightened. "It's here." Nobody answered him, but everybody felt it. The bunker lights dimmed for a second, like something drew power out of the room without touching a wire. A soft sound moved through the air again. A page turning. Then another. Not random. Not messy. Like someone was scanning for a chapter. John's voice was low. "It wants me to notice." Dean's anger rose again, but it had fear under it now. Who is it? John's eyes were hard. The kind of thing that thinks life is a story it can edit. Sam's stomach twisted. He hated that phrasing. He hated that it made sense with what they were seeing. Castiel spoke, voice tight. "It is not fully present. It is observing." Dean snapped. "Observing what?" Castiel looked at John. "Your choices." John's mouth tightened. Sam saw it then, clear as day. The pressure in the room wasn't only threat. It was a test. Sam stepped closer to the open book. He did not touch it. He just read the page. It was an old Men of Letters journal entry, one Sam had never seen before. He knew the handwriting. He had studied it. It belonged to a man who died 100 years ago, but the ink on the page looked fresh. The sentence at the top was simple. "The foreign one must pay." Sam's breath caught. Dean took 2 steps forward. "What the hell is that?" Sam swallowed. It's written." John's eyes narrowed at the page. He looked angry now, like someone had insulted him. "Yeah," John said. "That's the move." Dean's voice shook with rage. "We don't play this game." John's laugh was short and bitter. "You already are." Castiel's eyes flicked to Sam. "This is the pivot." Sam's heart thudded. "Pivot to what?" Castiel's voice dropped. "To personal pressure." As if the bunker heard him, a loud bang echoed from the garage door. Dean drew his gun and ran. Sam followed. Castiel moved like a shadow behind them. John came last, eyes scanning everything. Dean threw the door open. A body lay on the floor, just inside the garage entrance. Not dead. Not yet. A hunter Sam recognized. A friend of a friend. Bloody. Shaking. Eyes wide with fear. Dean knelt fast. Hey, talk to me." The hunter coughed. They came. Said they were looking for the Brit." Dean's eyes flashed up at John. The hunter's gaze turned to John and filled with panic. "It's you. You brought it." John's face did not defend itself. It didn't deny. It just accepted the hit. Sam felt anger flare at the universe, at the Watcher, at the Auditor, at everything that tried to make people blame the closest target. Dean's voice went flat. "Who came?" The hunter wheezed. "Black eyes. But they didn't attack me. They wrote on me." Sam's blood went cold. "Wrote?" The hunter lifted a trembling hand. His palm had a thin, dark symbol on it. A smaller version of the mark from the street. "Receipt," Castiel whispered. Dean's jaw tightened. They marked him as a message. John crouched beside the hunter, voice low and careful. "Listen, did you hear anything else? Any words?" The hunter swallowed hard. "They said, 'He will choose, or we will choose for him.'" John's eyes closed for a second. Sam felt the truth settle like a weight. This was no longer just about stopping tears. It was about forcing John Constantine into a corner. Sam looked at Dean. "They're going to keep doing this." Dean's voice was rough. "Yeah." Sam's gaze went to John. "So what do we do?" John opened his eyes. They were tired, but they were focused. "We stop waiting," John said. "We go hunting for the anchor." Dean frowned. "Anchor for what?" John stood, face hard. "For the claim. For my chain." Sam's mind jumped. You mean the thing that ties the auditor to you? John nodded once. If I cut the chain, it can't drag your world with it. Dean's eyes narrowed. And where is it? John's voice went quiet. That's the problem. The bunker lights flickered again, like the watcher was pleased. And Sam knew, deep down, that the next move would not be another public attack. It would be a knife at the heart. John Constantine had always worked best alone. It was not because he liked being lonely. He didn't. It was because he didn't trust his hands when people stood too close. He could lie. He could bargain. He could bend rules. And he could get people killed without meaning to. So, 2 nights later, he did what he always did. He left. He did not slam doors. He did not make speeches. He did not ask permission. He wrote a note and left it on the table in the library, right where Sam would see it. It said, "Going to fix my mess. Don't follow. If I owe you one, I'll pay. If I owe you more than one, pretend you never met me." He paused, then added a second line. "Also, Dean stole my lighter. Tell him I'll haunt him." He almost smiled at that. Almost. Then he slipped into the bunker's garage, took a car that was not his, and drove into the dark. He headed for a crossroads. Not a normal one. Not the kind with a stop sign and a gas station. A real crossroads. The kind that hummed under your skin if you knew how to listen. The kind where deals liked to happen. He had felt it on the way back from Iowa. A tug in the air. A taste of metal. A trail. He drove until the road turned into dirt, and the trees grew close. He parked and stepped out, coat tight around him. The night was cold. Quiet. John took out a cigarette on reflex. He patted his pockets. No lighter. He hissed a quiet curse and shoved it away. Focus, he told himself. He walked through the trees with a small bag in his hand. Chalk, salt, iron filings, a blade with a clean edge, a little bottle of something that smelled like old pennies. He found the crossroads in a clearing. 4 paths of dirt met like a plus sign. The ground looked normal if you didn't know better. John knew better. He knelt and drew a circle in the center. Slow this time. Careful. He laid down salt in a thin ring and iron in a second ring. He whispered the words that opened the space between promises. The air changed. A soft pressure moved in from the edges of the clearing. John kept his eyes on the circle. "Right," he said softly. "Show me where the anchor is." Nothing answered. He waited. The trees did not move, but John felt something watching from between them. Not the auditor. Something smaller. Something hungry. A sound came from behind him. A slow footstep in leaves. John turned fast, blade in hand. A woman stood at the edge of the clearing. Red hair. Sharp eyes. A smile that could cut. Rowena. John's stomach dropped. "Oh," he said, voice flat. "You've got to be kidding." Rowena clapped once, slow. "Not bad, pet. Not bad at all." John's eyes narrowed. "Don't call me pet." Rowena stepped closer, amused. "I've heard about you. The strange little man who smells like another world." John held the blade low. "And I've heard about you. The witch who thinks she's clever enough to survive anything." Rowena's smile widened. "And yet, here we both are." John's mind raced. Rowena showing up meant someone leaked his move, or the universe wanted him here. He did not like either option. "You followed me," John said. Rowena shrugged. "The boys are not subtle. Neither are you." John's jaw tightened. "Why are you here?" Rowena's eyes glinted. "Because you're playing with contracts that do not belong to this world, and I want to see what you break." John's voice went colder. "This isn't a show." Rowena tilted her head. "Everything is a show to someone." John felt the air shift again. A whisper moved through the clearing, like a breath over paper. Rowena's smile faded. "What was that?" John's blood went cold. "That's not you." The ground inside John's circle trembled. Not like an earthquake, like something under it stretched. A thin line appeared on the dirt, cutting through the circle as if the chalk was not there. John's eyes widened. "No!" Rowena stepped back. "What is that?" John's mouth went dry. "That's a signature." A second line drew itself, then a third. The symbol from the street was being drawn again, right in the center of the crossroads. But this time, it was not a warning. It was a door. Rowena's eyes narrowed, fear and interest mixing. "You brought it here." John snapped. I didn't. The dirt split. Something rose up, slow and wrong. It looked like a man at first, like the auditor, but it was not clean. It was stitched together from shadows and scraps of faces. Its mouth was full of teeth that did not match. It smelled like old promises. The contract eater. John felt his stomach twist. He had met things like this before, things that fed on words, names, and vows. Rowena whispered, "What is that?" John's voice was tight. "A thing that eats deals. It will strip you down to nothing if it gets your name." The creature lifted its head as if it heard him. It spoke, but the words came out like pages tearing. Constantine. Rowena flinched at the sound of the name. John's eyes burned. "Yeah, it knows." He lifted his blade. "Stay behind me." Rowena blinked, offended. "Excuse you?" John barked. "Do it or die." Rowena's face hardened, but she moved anyway, quick and smart. She drew her own sigil in the air with a flick of her hand. The creature stepped forward. John moved first. He threw salt in a hard line across the dirt. The creature's foot hit it, and smoke hissed up. It recoiled. Rowena snapped her fingers, and a wave of force hit the creature's chest. It staggered, but it did not fall. It laughed. The sound was wrong. John's mind ran fast. Salt and force were not enough. This thing was not a normal monster. It did not care about pain. It cared about ownership. John shouted, "It's anchored to the mark. Don't let it touch your skin." Rowena's eyes widened for half a second. How charming. The creature lunged. John rolled to the side, coat dragging through dirt. He came up and slashed with the blade. The blade cut into shadow and sparks jumped out like he hit wire. The creature hissed and swiped back. John ducked, but the claw grazed his shoulder. Not deep, just a touch. His skin went cold where it touched. Words flashed in his mind. Old bargains. Old names. John clenched his teeth and forced them down. Not today. Rowena fired another spell, bright and purple, sharp like a whip. It hit the creature's head. The head split open like paper, then reformed. Rowena swore in Gaelic. John almost smiled. Almost. The creature stepped toward Rowena now, sensing her power like a meal. Rowena lifted her hands, ready to burn it. John saw the problem. If Rowena spoke a true name, it might steal it. If she cast a binding wrong, it might twist it. John snapped. "No big spells, keep it simple." Rowena glared. "Do not tell me." The creature's shadow stretched and touched the edge of the crossroads. Suddenly, the trees around them looked farther away. The clearing felt wider. The air felt thinner. John's eyes widened. It's expanding the contract space. Rowena's gaze flicked around, alarmed. "What does that mean?" John's voice was grim. "It means we're standing inside its paperwork now." A sharp sound cut through the clearing. A car door slam. Dean Winchester's voice, furious, came from the trees. "Constantine!" John's stomach dropped. Oh, hell. Dean burst into the clearing with a shotgun in hand, Sam right behind him with a duffel of supplies. Castiel appeared a second later, eyes bright with power. Dean's gaze flicked from John to Rowena to the monster. His face twisted. "You left. And you brought her." Rowena lifted a brow. "Hello, darling." Sam's eyes locked on the creature. He swallowed hard. "What is that?" John snapped. "Later. It eats names." Dean raised his shotgun and fired. The blast hit the creature and knocked it back a step. For a normal monster, it would have been ripped apart. This creature just shook, then stood straighter. It turned its head slowly toward Dean. It spoke one word. "Dean!" Dean's face went pale for half a second. Not fear. Something deeper. Like the sound hit a memory. John shouted, "Don't answer it!" Dean's jaw clenched. He did not answer. He just fired again. Sam rushed to the circle and threw a handful of iron filings. The iron flared like it was magnetized by something unseen. The creature recoiled again, annoyed now. Castiel stepped forward, eyes fierce. "Leave this place!" He pushed angel power outward. The air shook. The trees trembled. The creature bent, but did not break. It stretched its shadow again, like it was grabbing for rules above Castiel's head. Castiel's face tightened. "It is resisting by altering context." John barked. "Yes! That's what it does! It changes the meaning of things!" Dean glared at John without looking away from the monster. "Then how do we kill it?" John's mind raced. He looked at the symbol on the ground. The mark was the anchor. The creature was tied to it. If he broke the mark, he might break the creature, or he might open the door wider. He hated choices like that. Sam crouched beside him, voice urgent. "John, what's the plan?" John's mouth went dry. He forced himself to speak. "We don't kill it first. We cut it off." Dean snapped. "Cut it off from what?" John pointed at the crossroads. "From the claim. From the mark." Rowena's eyes narrowed. "And how do you plan to do that?" John glanced at her. "With a counter-contract." Dean shot him a look like he was insane. "No." John didn't argue. He moved. He knelt at the edge of the symbol and began drawing over it with chalk. Not erasing, rewriting, turning lines into a different meaning. The creature shrieked and lunged toward him. Dean stepped in, blocking it. He swung the shotgun like a bat, cracking it across the creature's face. It staggered. Sam slashed with the demon knife. The blade bit deeper than the shotgun. Black smoke hissed. The creature clawed at Sam. Sam rolled back, just barely avoiding skin contact. Castiel grabbed the creature with invisible force and slammed it into the dirt. For a second, it stayed down. John's hands moved faster. He drew a small square around the mark, then another ring, then a short line that cut across the symbol like a strike-through. Rowena stared, eyes wide with spiteful respect. "That is bold," John hissed. "Save the compliments," Dean shouted. "Hurry!" The creature rose again, slower now, like it was fighting through glue. It moved toward John with rage, and the bunker's watcher presence hit the clearing like a cold wave. Sam felt it. Dean felt it. Even Rowena stiffened. A page turned somewhere no book existed. John's chalk stopped for a fraction of a second. That was all the creature needed. It lunged. Castiel moved to stop it, but the creature's shadow snapped up like a net. It caught Castiel's ankles, not by strength, but by rule. Castiel froze, face tight with strain. Dean saw the opening and stepped in front of John again, taking the hit meant for him. The creature's claw raked across Dean's forearm. Not deep. Not a kill. A touch. Dean's skin went cold where it touched. Dean grunted, shook it off, and backed away fast. "I'm fine." John's eyes snapped to Dean's arm. "No, you're not." Dean bared his teeth. "Do it. Finish your thing." John forced his hands to move again. Sam grabbed Dean's arm and pulled his sleeve back. A thin, dark line was spreading from the scratch. Not blood. Ink. Sam's breath caught. "It marked him." Dean yanked his arm back. "I said I'm fine." Castiel broke the shadow net with a surge of power. He stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Enough!" He reached out and smote. The air exploded with angel force. The creature screamed. Its body tore apart into smoke and scraps. For one clean second, it looked like Castiel had ended it. Then the scraps pulled back together, trembling. It did not die. It simply reformed. Slower now, but still alive. Castiel stared, shaken in a way Sam rarely saw. "It should have ended." John's voice was tight. "It's not a normal body. It's a claws." Dean's face twisted in anger. "I hate magic." John muttered. "Join the club." He finished the last line of chalk and slapped his palm down on the rewritten mark. He needed flame. His pocket was empty. John's eyes flicked to Dean. Dean, even furious, understood. He pulled his lighter out and threw it. John caught it without looking. He flicked it. The small flame appeared again, tiny and normal. John held it over the chalk lines and spoke fast, clear, brutal. The flame turned pale blue. The chalk lines flashed white. The symbol on the ground shuddered like it was alive. The creature screamed. It reached toward John, desperate. Dean fired again. Sam slashed again. Rowena sent a simple force blast that shoved it back. Castiel stood over the creature and held it down with sheer angel power, face tight with effort. John burned the final corner of the rewritten mark. The dirt smoked. The mark cracked. The creature's body froze, like it hit a wall inside itself. Then it shattered into black dust that blew away on the night wind. Silence fell. John's shoulders slumped for half a second, like he almost fell too. Sam exhaled. Shaky. "Is it gone?" John stared at the broken mark. His eyes were hard. "That one is." Dean grabbed John by the coat and shoved him back a step. "You left," Dean growled. "You ran. Again." John didn't fight it. He didn't even deny it. I went to cut the chain, John said. Dean lifted his marked arm. And now I'm inked. Sam looked at the spreading line. It was slow, but it was moving. Rowena stepped closer, eyes sharp. That is a nasty little curse. Castiel's gaze fixed on Dean's arm. It is a claim attempt. Dean's face twisted. So the thing touched me, and now I'm, what, owned? John's voice went low. Not owned. Tagged. Dean stared at him. By who? John looked at the broken mark, then up at the sky. By the one watching, John said. Sam's blood went cold. Dean's anger faltered for a moment as the weight of it hit him. So this is personal now. John's face was grim. It always was. It just finally admitted it. Rowena smiled, thin and dangerous. Well, that will make things interesting. Dean glared at her. Go home. Rowena rolled her eyes. I will when I'm bored. John's gaze snapped to Rowena. If you take advantage of this. Rowena's smile sharpened. If I take advantage? Pat, this is my universe. You're the one who brought foreign trouble into it. Sam stepped between them, voice urgent. Stop. Dean's arm. Can we remove the mark? John's eyes focused. He pushed past Dean and knelt by Sam, studying the ink line. It's not like a normal curse, John said. It's a receipt mark. It links him to a ledger. Dean's face tightened. A ledger. John nodded, jaw tight. And that means someone can pull on it later. Sam's voice shook. So what do we do? John stood slowly. He looked at Dean, and for once, his voice had no swagger, no mask. We find the anchor I came looking for, John said. Because if I can cut my chain, it might cut the line on you too. Dean's eyes narrowed. And if it doesn't? John didn't lie. Then we find a bigger rule to break. Castiel's head tilted, listening again. The air shifted. A soft page-turn sound moved through the clearing, even though there were no books. Rowena's eyes widened, just a little. Did you hear that? Sam felt his stomach drop. Yeah. John's face went pale. Dean stared up at the dark trees. What now? Castiel's voice was quiet. The observer is closer. John swallowed once, hard. Then the night air carried a voice that was not loud, but felt like it reached the inside of Sam's skull. Not a shout, not a whisper. A simple statement, calm and final. You don't belong here. Dean's grip tightened on his gun. Sam's breath caught. John's eyes burned with anger and fear. And the voice added, as if the decision was already made. And I'm done being gentle. The first week after the crossroads felt like living inside a storm that never hit the ground. In the bunker, life kept going. That was the trick of it. Lights stayed on. The fridge hummed. The books sat on their shelves. The weapons got cleaned. The coffee got made. But the air had a new pressure in it, like the bunker was being watched from far away. Sam noticed it the most when things were quiet. He sat at the table with a fresh stack of books and a legal pad full of symbols. John Constantine stood over him, sleeves rolled up, hands stained with chalk again. He had turned the library into a workshop. Wards on the doors, wards on the windows, wards on the floor under the rugs, wards on the inside of the light fixtures, which Sam did not even know was possible. Dean called it overkill. John called it Tuesday. Sam tapped the pencil on the paper. So, this line here, you said it means ownership, but the same line can mean permission if you flip it. John nodded. Context. That's the whole game. The same mark can mean two different things depending on what it sits next to. Sam tried to keep his voice steady. And the watcher uses context, like a weapon. John's mouth tightened. Yes. Sam glanced toward the garage door without meaning to. Dean had been there for hours, working on the Impala, and pretending his arm wasn't marked. The ink line on Dean's forearm had stopped spreading after the crossroads. It was not gone. It was contained, like a stain that refused to wash out. John had wrapped it in a warding band made from iron dust and salt mixed into a paste. It looked like a thick gray bracelet around Dean's arm. Dean hated it. He wore it anyway. Sam looked back at John. If it's contained, why does CA still look like he's listening all the time? John's eyes flicked up. Because it's not gone. A page turned on a shelf behind them. Sam's pencil stopped. John froze too. Not like he was scared, like he was taking a measurement. The page turned again. Slow. Careful. Sam swallowed. It's doing that on purpose. John's voice was quiet. It wants us to react. Fear feeds patterns. Panic makes people predictable. Sam nodded, but his stomach felt tight. Then we don't react. Dean's voice boomed from the hall. Hey! Sam jumped up and ran. Dean stood in the garage doorway, holding his forearm up like it offended him. The gray wardband was smoking. Not burning. Smoking. Like a hot pan with water thrown on it. Dean's eyes were sharp with anger. Your little bracelet is acting up. John appeared behind Sam, moving fast now. When? Dean's jaw clenched. Just now. I was working, and suddenly it felt like someone tugged the mark from the inside. Castiel appeared without warning. His eyes were focused, his posture tense. The observer is closer again. Sam felt cold creep up his spine. Why now? John's face went hard. Because it's time. Dean stared at him. Time for what? John didn't answer right away. He looked down at Dean's arm, then up at Dean's face. Time for an offer, John said. Dean's eyes narrowed. What kind of offer? John's mouth twitched. The kind you don't want. Dean didn't like that at all. Neither did Sam. Neither did Castiel. And somewhere in the bunker, a book shut itself with a soft thump, like a judge closing a file. Dean Winchester hated feeling tagged. He had been cursed before. He had been possessed. He had been dead. He had been in hell. But this was different. This felt like a hand on his sleeve all day, every day. Not pulling yet, just holding, reminding him that someone could pull whenever they wanted. He stood in the shooting range, trying to burn off the anger the only way he trusted. Targets. Noise. Movement. He fired 3 clean shots into the center of the paper silhouette. Then he fired again. The mark on his arm buzzed under the ward band. A sharp little sting, like a warning. Dean lowered the gun, breathing hard. John Constantine leaned in the doorway like he belonged there now, which made Dean want to throw something. You're tense, John said. Dean snorted. No kidding. John stepped in, eyes on Dean's arm. It's testing the line, seeing if it can pull you. Dean's grip tightened around the gun. Tell it to take a number. John gave a small, tired smile. That's the spirit. Dean turned, glare sharp. Don't joke. John's smile faded. I'm not. Dean lifted his arm so John could see the ward band. This thing stays, right? John's eyes didn't flinch. If we maintain it. If we keep the bunker warded. If we don't give it a clean path. Dean's voice went low. And if it wants a path, it'll make one. John met Dean's eyes. Yes. Dean hated how honest John was. It made it hard to pretend there was an easy fix. Dean stepped closer, face hard. So, what's the plan, Constantine? John's eyes narrowed at the sound of his last name. You want the truth? Dean didn't blink. I always want the truth. John exhaled slowly. The plan is to make the Watcher pay a cost if it touches this world directly. Dean stared. How do you make a god pay a cost? John's voice stayed flat. By forcing it to follow its own rules. Dean's jaw tightened. And what rules are those? John's gaze drifted toward the library hall, where the books waited like they were listening. The rule that it can't be the hero and the villain at the same time. The rule that it can't change the ending without showing its hand. Dean frowned. That sounds like nonsense. John shrugged. Most magic sounds like nonsense, until it works. Dean's mark stung again, sharper this time. Dean hissed and grabbed his forearm. John's face changed. It's pulling harder. Dean's eyes went cold. Then we pull back. John stepped in closer, voice low. When the offer comes, it will not be aimed at you. Not first. Dean stared. Then who? John's eyes flicked toward the hall again. Me. Dean's stomach tightened. He didn't like Constantine. He didn't trust him. But Dean also knew something simple. Whatever this Watcher was, it had already used Dean as a message. That meant it would keep using him until it got what it wanted. Dean leaned closer, voice rough. If you're thinking of taking a deal, John cut him off, quiet and sharp. I'm always thinking about it. That's the problem. Dean froze. John's eyes held his, tired but real. Don't worry. I'm not planning to leave you holding the bag. Dean swallowed his anger and forced out the words he hated saying. Good. John's mouth twitched. Careful. Someone might think you like me. Dean rolled his eyes. Don't push it. John patted his coat, then sighed. Also, you still have my lighter. Dean stared. You're kidding. John didn't blink. No. Dean almost laughed. It came out like a short, angry breath. Fine, Dean said. I'll give it back when the universe stops trying to file my soul in a cabinet. John nodded like that was reasonable. Deal. Dean hated himself a little for it, but he felt slightly better. Then the bunker lights flickered, and Dean knew the offer was not coming sometime. It was coming now. John Constantine felt the offer before it arrived. It was not a door opening. It was not a demon appearing. It was not thunder. It was a change in silence. He sat alone in the library because he had told Sam to rest and Dean to cool down and Castiel to stop staring at the ceiling like it owed him money. None of them listened for long, but they gave John 5 minutes. That was all the Watcher needed. A book on the table opened by itself. Not one of the old journals. Not one of Sam's research stacks. A book that had been blank. The pages flipped fast, like a hand searching for a place to write. Then they stopped. Ink appeared on the paper in clean lines. Not scratched. Not messy. Written like someone who had all the time in the world. John Constantine. John's breath tightened. He did not move. He did not touch the page. Another line wrote itself. You do not belong in this world. John's mouth curled. Yeah, I gathered. The words paused, as if the page had listened. Then more ink formed. I can return you. Cleanly. John's chest went tight. He hated that his heart reacted. He hated that a part of him wanted it. The page turned by itself. On return, your debt will be sealed. Your chains will be quiet. John swallowed once. Then the next line appeared. The mark on the hunter will be removed. John's eyes narrowed. Of course you'd use him. The ink wrote again. He will live. He will forget the pain of this claim. John's fingers curled against the edge of the chair. He forced himself to stay still. And what do you want? John asked. The words came quickly. Leave. Do not interfere. Do not teach them to break the book. John stared at that line for a long moment. Break the book. So it was true. This thing thought in stories, in chapters, in control. John's voice came out low. If I say no. The page went blank for one heartbeat. Then ink returned, darker this time. Then I will correct the error. John felt the air press in around him, like the bunker walls had moved half an inch closer. The page turned again. Correction will not be clean. He heard footsteps in the hall. Dean's. Fast. Angry. Sam's. Quick. Worried. Castiel's presence behind them like a cold light. John stared at the book as if it was a bomb he could not cut the wire on. He wanted the clean return. He wanted Dean's mark gone. He wanted the chains quiet. He also knew the price. The Watcher did not say, leave and they are safe. It said, leave and I will stop this. That meant it would still be watching, still writing, still choosing. John's hands trembled once. Just once. He whispered, more to himself than the page, you don't get to own them. The ink wrote again, almost polite. You do not own them, either. John's lips pressed together. No, but I can choose not to sell them. Dean stormed into the library and stopped dead when he saw the open book. Sam stepped beside him, eyes wide. John? Castiel stared at the page. It is speaking. Dean's voice went hard. What did it offer? John didn't lie. He looked at Dean and said it clean. My way out, John said. And your mark gone. Dean's face flickered for half a second. Relief, anger, and pride all fighting each other. Sam's voice was tight. And what does it want? John nodded toward the page. Me gone. Quiet. No more interference. Dean's jaw clenched. Sounds like a good deal. Sam snapped his head toward Dean. Dean! Dean's eyes stayed on John. His voice was rough. No, listen. If leaving fixes the mark and stops this thing, John cut in, quiet and sharp. It stops it for now. The page flipped again. A new line wrote itself, aimed like a knife. Dean Winchester will be pulled through the next time I turn the page. Sam's blood went cold. Dean stared at the words, face hard. Do it then. Sam grabbed Dean's arm. Dean, no. Dean didn't look at Sam. If it's me or the whole world, it's me. John stared at Dean, anger rising in his chest. You think that's heroic? That's predictable. Dean snapped. Shut up. Castiel stepped forward, voice tight with urgency. This is manipulation. The ink wrote again, as if it enjoyed being named. Yes. John looked at the page, then at all of them. His voice came out steady even though his hand still shook. I'm not leaving, John said. Dean's eyes widened. Are you insane? John nodded once. Probably. Then he spoke to the page, clear and loud. I refuse your correction, John said, and I refuse your deal. The bunker light surged bright. Every book on every shelf trembled. Pages began turning on their own, hundreds of them, like a storm made of paper. Sam ducked as loose pages tore free and flew through the air. Dean reached for his gun, even though it was useless. Castiel lifted his hands, power flaring, trying to hold the bunker steady. John didn't move. He stared at the chaos and spoke through it. Fine, John said. You want a story? Then you follow the rules of one. The Watcher's pressure slammed into the room like a heavy door, and the correction began. The bunker shook, not like an earthquake, like a choice. The air in the library split with a thin crack, the same kind that had opened in the church and the hospital street, only smaller, cleaner. It formed right above Dean's head, like it was drawn to him. Dean's ward band smoked again, harder now. The ink on his arm pulsed under it. Dean grunted and grabbed his forearm. Sam lunged to him. Dean! Dean shoved Sam back. I'm fine. He was not fine. The crack above him widened, inch by inch, like a mouth opening. Castiel stepped in, eyes blazing. He pushed angel power upward, pressing against the crack like he could force it shut. For a second, it held. Then the crack changed shape, sliding sideways, avoiding Castiel's push as if it had learned how to move around force. Castiel's jaw clenched. It is adjusting. John moved fast. He grabbed Sam's notebook from the table and shoved it into Sam's hands. Circle, now, under Dean. Sam's eyes snapped to John. What? John's voice was sharp. Draw it. Sam didn't argue. He dropped to his knees and started drawing with chalk on the bunker floor, hand steady because he had no choice. He drew the ward circle John had taught him, the one that meant no entry and no claim. Dean stood in the center, breathing hard, the crack above him growing. Dean's eyes flashed at John. You said you weren't taking a deal. I'm not, John snapped. I'm making one. Dean stared. With who? John pulled a folded paper from his coat. It was stained and old. Sam's stomach dropped when he saw it. Is that? Not now, John cut in. John slapped the paper down on the table, grabbed a pen, and started writing. Dean barked. Now you decide to do paperwork? John's voice stayed calm, almost cold. Yes, because that's what it respects. The pages in the room kept turning. Some ripped free and flew like knives. Castiel lifted his hand and stopped a cluster midair, holding them in place with power. Sam finished the circle and threw salt along the line. Done. John didn't look up. Good. Don't let him step out. Dean glared. I'm not going anywhere. The crack above Dean suddenly tugged downward. Dean's boots slid a fraction on the floor. Sam grabbed his jacket and held on. Dean! Dean's teeth bared. I'm fine. But the pull got stronger. Castiel pressed harder, his face tight with strain. It is pulling through the mark. John wrote faster. He was not writing a spell. He was writing terms. Short sentences. Clear rules. Sam could see it in the corner of his eye. If the observer touches this place directly, it must be named. If it takes a life to correct an error, it must pay a cost. If it claims a soul by force, it breaks its own rule of choice. Dean's voice cracked with anger as he slid again. John! John finally looked up. His eyes were hard. I need a signature. Sam's breath caught. A signature from who? John's gaze snapped to Dean. From the one being claimed. Dean stared at him like he wanted to refuse on pure instinct. Sam shouted over the roar of turning pages. Dean, do it! Dean yanked a knife from his belt and cut his own palm without hesitation. Blood welled up. John pointed. Press it here. Now. Dean slapped his bloody palm onto the paper. The paper shuddered like it was alive. The crack above Dean flickered. Castiel's eyes widened. He is binding the structure. John's jaw clenched. He pulled the lighter from his coat pocket, the same lighter Dean had thrown him at the crossroads. Dean's eyes flashed despite everything. You kept it? John didn't look at him. Of course I did. John flicked it. The small flame appeared, and in that instant, the watcher's pressure focused. The air went very still around the flame, like the whole room held its breath. John held the flame to the edge of the paper. The paper did not burn. It blackened slightly, like it accepted the heat as a seal. John spoke, loud and clear, not fancy, not poetic, just direct. I offer terms, John said. You want correction? Fine. You correct without theft, without force, without pulling him through a tear, like he's a file you can move. The crack above Dean widened suddenly, as if in anger. Dean's boot slid half a foot. Sam cried out and locked his arms around Dean's waist, bracing with his full weight. Castiel pushed upward with both hands, face strained. I cannot hold it much longer. John's voice rose. Then you show yourself. The pages in the room turned faster, furious now. Ink splashed across one open book, forming words on its own. No terms. John barked a laugh. That's your answer? No terms? He slammed his bloody hand on the paper beside Dean's. You can't have it both ways. You can't be law and chaos. You can't be judge and thief. The bunker lights flared bright white. The crack above Dean flickered again, like it did not know which shape to be. Sam's eyes widened. It's hesitating. John's voice dropped, sharp as a blade. Because you don't like losing control. A new sound filled the room. Not pages turning. A pen scratching on paper. Ink began writing in the air itself, forming words that hung there like black smoke. Choice is mine. John shook his head. No, not here. He pointed at the paper contract on the table. You want him? You take him through terms. If you refuse, you prove you're not law. You're just hunger. The pull on Dean's mark spiked. Dean's knees bent as if gravity doubled. Sam grunted, straining. Dean! Dean's face twisted. Let go. Sam snapped. No! Castiel's hands shook. Light flared around his fingers. He was holding the crack like he was holding a door shut with his whole body. John saw the moment. The edge. He made his choice. He shoved the contract toward the center of Sam's circle, into the boundary Sam had drawn. Then he stepped into the circle too, right beside Dean. Dean's eyes widened. What are you doing? John's voice was steady. Making it about me again. The ink on Dean's arm surged, then split its attention, like a chain pulled two directions. The crack above Dean wobbled. Castiel felt the shift. His voice was tight. The pull has changed. John lifted his chin toward the air writing words. You want the foreign error? Fine. Take me. But you don't take him as leverage. Not anymore. Sam's eyes went wide. John! John didn't look at Sam. If he looked, he might stop. He stared at the invisible watcher and spoke like he was speaking to a bully in a small room. You don't get to hurt them to teach me a lesson, John said. If you want payment, you deal with me. The air went silent. Even the pages stopped turning for one heartbeat. Then the watcher's pressure pressed down, heavy and cold. Ink wrote in the air again, slower now. You would trade yourself. John's mouth curled. I'm good at trades. Dean snarled. Don't you dare act like this is a joke. John finally glanced at Dean. His eyes were fierce. It's not a joke. It's a move. Dean's face twisted. You're doing this because you feel guilty. John's jaw clenched. I'm doing it because I'm tired of being predictable. Sam swallowed hard. His voice shook. What if it takes you? John looked at Sam now, and his face softened for the first time in days. Then you lot keep fighting, John said. You keep choosing. That's what it hates. Castiel's voice cut in, urgent. It is deciding. The crack above them shifted. It stopped pulling Dean. It angled toward John. Dean's eyes widened. No. John lifted a hand. Stay in the circle, Dean. Don't be an idiot. Dean snapped. Says you. John's mouth twitched. Fair. The crack opened wider over John's head. The pull hit him like a hook in his chest. John's feet slid a few inches. Sam's hands grabbed John's coat on instinct. John! John barked. Let go. Sam hesitated. John's eyes flashed. Let go, Sam! Sam let go. John slid toward the crack. The paper contract on the floor began to glow faintly at the edges, like it was now part of the rule. John gritted his teeth and shouted up into the crack, voice raw. "If you take me," John said, "you accept the terms. You accept the cost. You accept that you can't touch this world directly without a name." The pull paused. The Watcher hesitated again, because it wanted him, but it did not want a cost. Dean, still in the circle, stared up and did something that shocked even him. He stepped forward and grabbed John's wrist. John snapped, "Dean, don't!" Dean's face was hard. "I'm not letting you get dragged away because of me." John's eyes flared. "This isn't about you!" Dean's voice shook with fury. "Everything is about me now. It inked my arm like I'm a note in its book." John stared at him, then looked down at Dean's hand on his wrist. For a split second, John saw it. The truth. Dean was not holding on because he trusted John. Dean was holding on because Dean did not leave people behind, even ones he couldn't stand. John's throat tightened. He made a different choice. Not the clean sacrifice. Not the lonely exit. He chose the messy, stubborn thing. He chose team. John grabbed Dean's lighter from his own pocket and shoved it into Dean's free hand. Dean blinked. "What?" John shouted. "Light it and hold it over the mark." Dean didn't understand, but he did it. He flicked the lighter. The flame appeared. John pressed his own bloody palm over Dean's ward band, right on the ink line. Pain shot through John's hand like ice and needles. He hissed, but didn't move away. Castiel's eyes widened. He is sharing the claim. Sam's breath caught. Can he do that? John gritted his teeth. Only for a moment. The flame's light trembled. The ink under the ward band pulsed. John forced his voice through the pain. "This is the cost you wanted." He snarled toward the crack. "Here it is. Take it without breaking your rule." The Watcher's pressure slammed once, hard. Then it stopped. The crack above them snapped shut like a mouth biting off a word. Every loose page in the room fell to the floor at once. The bunker went still. Dean's lighter flame stayed steady. Dean stared at it like it had just saved his life. John collapsed to one knee, breathing hard, sweat on his brow. Sam rushed to him. "John!" John lifted a hand. "I'm alive." Dean looked down at his arm. The ward band was no longer smoking. The ink line was still there, but it looked duller, like it had lost interest. Dean swallowed. Did it back off? Castiel's eyes were fixed on the shelves. "It has retreated." Sam's voice was shaky. "Why?" John's breath came slow. "Because it didn't get what it wanted, and because it didn't want to pay the price." Dean stared at John. Anger still there, but something else mixed into it now. Respect, maybe, or just confusion. John looked up at Dean, face pale. "We bought time," John said. "That's all." Dean nodded slowly. "Time is something." Sam looked around at the fallen pages, the scattered books, the silence. He felt it too. The Watcher was not gone, but it had stepped back. For now, the bunker felt like theirs again. John pushed himself to his feet, wincing. He looked at the paper contract on the floor. The ink on it had changed. A new line had appeared at the bottom, written in the same clean hand as before. Terms noted. John's mouth curled, bitter and satisfied at the same time. "Good," John whispered. "Now you're listening." A few days later, the bunker sounded normal again. Not safe. Normal. Sam sat at the table with his books open, but his shoulders were less tight. He still looked up when a page moved. He still flinched when the lights flickered, but he could breathe. Dean stood across the room, rolling his sleeve up and down like he couldn't decide what to do with his arm. The ink line was still there. The ward band stayed, but it didn't sting every hour anymore. It was quiet. Dean didn't say, "Thank you." Dean also didn't say, "Leave." That was something. Castiel stood near the shelves, head tilted, listening. Sam watched him. "Do you still feel it?" Castiel's eyes stayed distant. "Yes, but it is not pressing. It is watching from farther away." Dean snorted. "Creepy." John sat in a chair with his boots on the table, which Dean hated. He had chalk dust on his jeans and a fresh bruise on his knuckles, like he'd gotten into a fight with the universe and lost a round. Sam looked at John. "So what now?" John shrugged. "Now we live. We prepare. We don't give it easy patterns." Dean's brow furrowed. And what about your chain? The auditor? John's eyes narrowed. The auditor is still a problem, but it's a problem with steps. It follows rules. I can work with that. Sam's voice was careful. And the Watcher? John's mouth tightened. That's the bigger problem. It doesn't like losing, and it doesn't like being challenged. Dean crossed his arms. So it'll come back. John nodded once. Yeah. Dean stared at him. Why stay? John's eyes flicked to Dean's arm, then back to Dean's face. Because I already dragged my mess into your life, John said. Leaving now would be the easy thing. Sam's voice was soft. And you don't do easy. John gave a small, tired smile. I do easy all the time. That's why people get hurt. Dean didn't respond, but his face shifted. Just slightly. He understood that sentence more than he wanted to. John reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a cigarette, and held it between his lips. Dean's eyes narrowed. Don't you dare. John patted his pockets. Then he froze. He pulled out a lighter, a cheap one, scratched up, very familiar. Dean's eyes widened. That's mine. John blinked like he'd just realized it too. Is it? Dean stepped forward fast. Give me that. John lifted it away like a kid with a toy. You threw it at me. That counts as a gift. Dean's voice rose. It was a life or death moment. John's mouth twitched. Exactly. Sentimental. Sam let out a surprised laugh. It felt strange, laughing after everything. But it also felt good. Dean glared at Sam. Don't encourage him. Castiel's head tilted. Why is the small fire device important? Dean pointed at John. Because he won't shut up about it. John shrugged. A man has needs. Dean growled. Your needs are annoying. John flicked the lighter open and closed once, like he enjoyed the sound. Then he tossed it to Dean. Dean caught it without thinking. John leaned back. There. Paid. Dean frowned. Paid for what? John smiled, small and sharp, for the trouble. Dean stared at him. You can't pay for this. John's smile faded. He nodded once, serious again. I know. The room went quiet for a moment. Sam looked down at his notes, then up at John. Are you staying? John didn't answer right away. He stood and walked toward the bunker stairs. Dean's gaze followed him, suspicious as always. John stopped at the bottom of the stairs and looked back. I don't make promises I can't keep, John said. But I'll say this. I'm here today, and today matters. Sam nodded, accepting it for what it was. Castiel watched John with that same careful focus. Dean's voice came out rough. If you pull something like running off again, John cut in. Calm. You'll shoot me. I know. Dean blinked. John had taken the heat out of the threat by saying it first. Dean's mouth twitched in annoyance. Yeah, maybe. John's lips quirked. Fair. He went up the stairs. Sam sat back down and exhaled. Dean looked at his arm again, then at the lighter in his hand. He turned it over once. He didn't say it out loud, but Sam could tell. Dean felt less like a note in someone else's book, and that mattered too. Later that night, John stood outside the bunker, alone under the dark sky. The air was cold, clean, and quiet. No pages turning, no pressure pressing down, just wind in the trees. He lit a cigarette with the lighter Dean had demanded back, and then somehow ended up throwing to him again anyway. The flame was small, normal. John watched it for a second before he shut it and took a slow drag. He thought about the offer, the clean return, the quiet chains, the easy exit. He thought about Dean's hand on his wrist. He thought about Sam drawing a circle with shaking hands and still getting it right. He thought about Castiel holding a crack in the world like it was just another door to guard. John exhaled smoke into the night. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel like a good man. He felt like the same mess he had always been, but he also felt something else. Small and stubborn. Choice. John looked up at the sky, eyes narrowed, as if he could stare back at the Watcher even when it wasn't pressing close. Not your world, he said softly. Not your people. He took another drag and let it out. Slow. Free will, John muttered, like he was reminding himself. Still worth the trouble. Behind him, deep in the bunker, life went on, and somewhere far away, something that liked to write stories waited for the next page. But for tonight, the page stayed still.